So we've been talking about 3 ways that we can break bad habits. And we've said that the first way is to know the message of Jesus Christ. To know that he went to the cross for us and that he has robbed us of our sin and he has now declared us righteous in God's sight and that we can now live in light of that. And the message, according to 1 John, is God is light. And God being light, he's pure, he's holy, he's all-knowing. In him is no darkness at all, nothing impure, nothing evil, no ignorance in him whatsoever. God is light, and he's a God of revelation. This is the message from God, is that he is light. And being light, he exposes what darkness is, and then he actually cleanses us from that darkness. So the first thing is we're to know the message of Christ. Second, we're to know Jesus himself. And we said last time that knowing Jesus is having this personal relationship with him. It's meeting with him daily. It's reading his word and listening to him, and then requesting of him what his word says it can do. What Jesus can do for us and how he can change us to be like him. That's what he wants to do. He wants to make us into his image. And that's why he came. And so the third way that John gives here to not sin, because he's saying in chapter 2, my little children, I'm writing these things so you don't sin. The third way is that you would share Jesus. How does sharing Jesus break the power of sin? Well, it does it because it gives you joy. Notice what John says, 1 John 1:4. It says, "And we are writing these things to you that our joy may be complete," or your joy may be complete. And what he's saying is, joy is the reason he's writing them, so that, because joy comes when you know how to trust Christ in regard to your sin. That's where joy comes from. And so what he's doing is he's saying, I have fellowship with Jesus, and I want you to have that fellowship with Jesus. So he says, I want you to experience Christ in the way that I have. I want you to see what Christ has done in regard to my sin, because he can do the same thing in regard to your sin. And so the third thing that we can do to break bad habits is to make new ones. And to share Christ with other people is a new habit. To think, how can I share how Jesus has delivered me from problems in my life, kept me from procrastinating, and delivered me from talking too much, and kept me from wasting my time or emotional eating or spending too much money. How has Jesus done these things for you? Because that's what John's doing here. He's now sharing how Jesus dealt with his sin. He knows these things because Jesus was the light. And he was exposing John's sin. These disciples walked with Jesus all the time. They couldn't fault him for anything. Oh, they did at times, but they misunderstood. Don't you care about us? Of course Jesus cared about them, but they misunderstood. So we need to be sharing Christ with others in such a way that that they see the joy that we have over how he's overcome our bad habits and overcome our sin. How does Jesus overcome your sin? Through you sharing Jesus. But see, you have to know Jesus and the message before you can share him. And so the best way to overcome sin and to have it not have a hold in your life is by constantly distracting yourself from it. So distract yourself from sin by figuring out how you can share Jesus with other people. What has Jesus done for you specifically? What has Jesus done in your marriage? What has Jesus done in relationship to your children? What has Jesus done in relationship to your young life? What has Jesus done in relationship to your school life, to your work life? How has Jesus worked into your life precious things that you could share with other people? That you could say, I'm sharing these things with you so that our joy would be full. because it is out of this fullness of joy that you don't want to sin. And so John is driving home the fact that I'm writing these things to you so that you may not sin. And so here's how you may not sin. You know the message. Be familiar with the gospel. Preach it to yourself. You know Jesus personally and experientially. You go into your room, close your door, and speak to your Heavenly Father who is in secret. And your Heavenly Father who sees in secret will reward you. He will reward you. This is that intimate relationship that you can have with Jesus himself. Just as John says that he had. He tasted this life. He got to spend time with this life. And you can too. So I'm calling you to go and pray and experience this life. Know Jesus for yourself. Don't just know him because your parents know him. Don't just know him because your spouse knows him. Know him for yourself. Seek to experience and know Jesus personally for yourself, and I guarantee you, you will sin less. Now, just by way of note, when you get to know Jesus better, while you will practice less sin, you will see more sin in your life. Don't let that discourage you. Because if you're walking in the light as he is in the light, then you will see that you have sin. But you will also know, because you're in the light, that he is the one who can take that sin away. So, know the message, know Jesus, and finally, share Jesus. These are the ways that you can make sure that sin isn't getting the victory in your life. You can make sure that if you're focused on the gospel and you're intimate with Christ and you're experiencing him personally and you're sharing him with others, those are purifying things in your life because you're having fellowship with God himself, and then you're leading others to enjoy that fellowship as well. That's how you break a bad habit.